Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me Vulcan. Today I have for you a 4 vs 4 on Bois de Limors, and in this one I'm going to be playing with the 3rd Canadian Infantry. So this was a game that was played on stream and I decided to show it to you guys because I was playing the 3rd Canadian Infantry, which isn't a division that I've played in a while, and I think currently sits in a rather strange position in terms of the meta, especially with the introduction of the new DLC divisions. So I just wanted to try it out and see how we got on. On my team today, I'm going to be having C4 Samsung with the 7th Armoured. Then we have Manotha with the 2nd Infantry and Lennart with the 101st Airborne. On the Axis side, we have Silhouette with the Festung, Island Man with the 12th SS Panzer, Jagdsorce with the 21st Panzer, and Salt with the Festung as well. So we are playing against 2 DLC divisions. We have, of course, one on our team with the 7th Armoured, but otherwise it's an interesting mix of DLC divisions and older divisions. So that's always nice to see. Let's have a look at what I'm putting down here. So it's going to be sort of a mix of flamethrowers and stormtroopers. It's always a strong combination with the Canadians, having those stormtroopers and flamethrowers work together, because you can engage infantry first of all with the stormtroopers, throw that one grenade. Then the next time you engage, you have the stormtroopers in front of your flamethrower, you bring the flamethrower in, and then in combination you just overrun that infantry squad very quickly, because if the infantry squad is targeting your stormtroopers and then the flamethrowers engage, they're not engaging the flamethrowers directly, and therefore the flamethrower can force surrenders quite easily. But on this right side, I have a ram, just to sort of cover the more open area. I'm going to be covering this sort of right side forest area throughout the game. Then I've got a 6-pounder there. I've got, of course, that stormtrooper flamethrower combo with the rifle leader following up. Then I've got a Vickers HMG for the bush in the middle here, if I can get it there. If not, then I'll just put it further back and just use that to cover the open area and pin down any troops that try and push across. Then I've got my command there, got a couple more of the flamethrower stormtrooper combo, and I've also got a Piat just, in case any vehicles come flying towards me, like, Panzer Ones or something from the Festung, that can just be really annoying in these sort of forest environments. People really underrate sort of vehicles in these close range engagements, and often things like Stuarts can do really, really well. I know I don't have Stuarts as the 3rd Canadian, but just an example of a unit that can work very well at closer ranges, because it can put down a lot of suppression with its multiple 30 cals. Same goes for just vehicles in general. Like in this case, command carriers are pretty damn good for just pinning down enemy infantry or just providing a little bit extra fire support. Even a ram with its 30 cal can definitely do some work. The only thing you do have to be wary of course, is things like flamethrowers. Not flamethrowers, Panzerschrecks and Panzerfausts that can obviously kill your units at close range. But as long as you maintain or manage the 250 meter range engagement, you should never really get caught out by Panzerschrecks. But off we go. Let me just turn down the speed again. I know the deployment took a while, so I did speed up the deployment briefly there. Now on my left, of course, I am going to have Lennart throughout this game. He is playing the 101st Airborne, which is perfect for this map, but this map was actually chosen randomly using the random tool, so nobody knew what we were getting going into this. It just happened to be that the 101st was a good division for Lennart to have. Manotha going to my right with the 2nd Infantry, and on the far right we have that 7th Armoured Division. So we are off. Let's just show you guys how I'm deploying my troops. I've got fast move with unload at position commands. So I'm fast moving and then shift clicking unload, so that when my units get to the exact location I want them to, they can unload and then they can move on from there. I've also got a sort of fast move, unload and attack move position. So that's for the command carrier here. So the command carrier will move here, unload its command, and then the command carrier will move with an attack move order towards this area. and that's just a good thing to do with a lot of your like carriers that sort of don't despawn. So, you know, half tracks are really good for doing that. You know, things like these Panards for Silhouette there. He's just unloaded an Elfkladder. If he sort of shift unloaded and then had like a move order back, he might not have lost it to the M22, but I mean, it's all like inconsequential at the moment because Lennart there just picking up that kill quite nicely at the start. But I'm just moving all my troops into position. We have the stormtroopers here. They're going to be covering the flamethrowers. So you can see like I'm moving the stormtroopers in front of the flamethrowers. Then if I get engaged on these stormtroopers, then the flamethrowers can move up and do the job. Alright, in the meantime, we are starting to get hit by artillery. It's coming straight in onto my Vickers HMG. One thing I am lacking in general is recon, but honestly, in this sort of position, recon's not incredibly necessary. Like in a forest environment, it would be quite nice to have recon, say, where this Vickers HMG is, because then it could spot stuff across the open, but in terms of infantry engagement, it's not too much of a concern. On this left side, Landeshusen coming up against Lennart's engineers here and my stormtroopers. We're pretty much just going to run them down. I can have my stormtroopers just use a normal move command rather than a attack move command, because they have 18 HE at 100 meter range and submachine guns can be fired on the move. So I'm pretty happy to just sort of run towards them. You can see the same deal here. Move straight into these Bewährungs, get a bit of ground. In this case, I'm actually going to smoke myself because Bewährungs have a very high strength squad. So they've got like 15 men in a squad. That's pretty hard for a 6-man squad to deal with, especially with just their submachine guns. So we're sort of starting to try and deal with these Landesschützen. And got to be a little bit careful with this 222 though. That's getting line of sight. It's going to absolutely hammer my stormtroopers. Managed to pick up the surrender, but before I get the smoke off on that left side, I do lose quite a lot of men in that stormtrooper squad on the left side. On the right side, I do lose my command carrier that was pushing forwards. My Ram 2 took a couple shots, but fortunately the Ram 2 does have that 12 front armor, which does make it pretty strong indeed. 25 pounds is going to be opening up onto the Pak 38 on the right side. I did bring in that 25 pounder quite early on, just to counter battery and also take out, you know, decent fire support units like the Pak 38. The trouble is with 25 pounders in Phase A, especially for the Canadians, is they don't have any veterancy, so they don't really hit where you want them too often. Bewährungs here are going to take a lot of fire from my command carrier. You can see that I've sort of managed the range there. I knew that I was up against like Festung. Bewährungs have 150 meter range AT, so if I keep this command carrier at 200 meter range from the edge of the tree line, then it can never fire its AT weapon at me, and I can still provide that Bren fire onto the squad. So we managed to take a 15-man squad down to, you know, like 4 men. I do, unfortunately, afterwards get taken out by the Panzerfaust due to that not affecting the front line. I was kind of unaware that they were there, and therefore, you know, 250 meter range is going to do the job. And it was a nice play by Silhouette to make that happen. And Silhouette is my like my counterpart throughout this game. So, rifle leader there, going to be forced back under fire from artillery. Did lose my stormtroopers there, which is unfortunate, and I've got one stormtrooper just sitting here at the moment on his own. Does still have his grenade available. Flamethrower is now moving over to help out the rifle leader, because similar to the stormtroopers flamethrower combo, you can actually do the same with the rifle leader. Rifle leader just sponge the shots and then the flamethrower comes in, and that should work out. Piet's sort of still moving up into position. On the right side, I'm just playing this quite defensively. I could have had this rifle leader maybe further over on top of this 6-pounder, but I didn't really need it, especially with the Ram 2 providing command. So just moving up the sniper scouts at the moment. On this right side, you can get a shift command there, just making sure that I get into the tree line properly before I continue to move up. Artillery is going to continue to fall into the rifle leader here and the flamethrowers, but more rifles have now arrived, and they're going to be trying to help me, you know, push even further here. Now, one thing that is an issue with the 3rd Canadian that I found is, yeah, okay, forest works quite well, especially in Phase A, but as soon as you run out of stormtroopers, you put yourself in a pretty dodgy position, because after the stormtroopers are gone, you're left with rifles and however many flamethrowers you have left on your division, which for me I think was only 1 card. It should probably be 2, because these flamethrowers are very good value for money. It's a 10-point flamethrower squad. It comes with 4 smoke grenades, and the utility that this flamethrower squad provides is actually fantastic. Like, just for the smoke alone at close range, it's just so damn useful. Like, as well as the fact that it can just wreck a squad as well. And they're 3-star veterancy with a command nearby. Unfortunately, those rifles do get surrendered, because we do get... well, I do get pushed on pretty hard here by infantry, and my rifle leader was pinned down, so that kind of sucked. But either way, you can see my flamethrower there going to be engaging those lander shoots, and just going to try and get rid of those. Bevelungs are going to come in pretty hot, but I'm just going to smoke myself off and start moving my rifles to help out. On the left side here, ME109G0 is going to catch onto the back of Lennart's P51, but it looks like the Mustang just about managed to get out in time. M22 is going to be pushing on to Jagsauce pretty hard here. Jagsauce not really in an ideal division to deal with the forest engagement against the airborne. That's kind of unfortunate for him. JU-188 is going to be coming in with a bombing strike onto these rifles. Good old Festung coming in with their cheapy bombers. And definitely just pinning, like absolutely carpet bombing this forest area. You can see it pinned a lot of my forces. Fortunately, didn't cause a surrender onto these rifles and so on. And I still have this flamethrower here, so I can use that to smoke off once again, and that kind of, you know, saves me some ground here.
Need some ground pounders, sir?
So I've still got the units on the right side. I'm just kind of taking it easy at the moment. Got another 25-pounder in here, just trying to counter battery their artillery throughout the game. To make sure that's no longer an issue. Got my Ram 2 pushing forward since I've been trying to deal with the Pack 38 on the right side of the forest. I'm just trying to push where I can. Meanwhile, my teammate's doing pretty well. Manotha's made some ground, and it looks like Samsung on the right side is doing okay. Here we do see that my flamethrowers do get taken out, and because again the rifle leader are pinned down, I do lose a 10-man squad of rifles, which was really bad honestly, but I didn't really have the reaction times to sort that out. Vickers HMG is going to be opening up onto the Bevelungs there, taking them out. This Pack 38 is still alive, kind of annoying. It's going to force back my command carrier. So Panhard MGs come in as well. IG-18 is an issue. That can definitely deal with my Vickers HMG quite well. We now also see that there is a vehicle for Silhouette pushing through, so he's going to put on quite a lot of pressure with this. That is a Panzer I coming through. And with the Canadians, you're relying on rifle leaders, and also you got like your 6-pounders and Ram 2s in Phase A. Now in Phase A you can get 1-star 6-pounders, which is quite nice, and you do get Ram 2s, which are fantastic against tanks, but they're really bad against sort of anything else. So like Rams are kind of weird because they provide you with AT, but you got to have them in the right position. And like 6-pounders are the same deal. Like they just have weaknesses. Like all of the AT in this division has weaknesses, and it makes it very hard to have them in the right position at the right times, especially when you're being pressured in multiple places. Now over on this right side, I think I was just trying to get my my Ram to reverse away from that AT gun. You can see that it was kind of facing its armor, but because it was so close, did end up getting penetrated. Rifles here are trying to deal with the Bevelungs, but the Bevelungs have such high health, and for 25 points they're absolutely amazing because of that. You can see that my rifles are really struggling with the health difference. I mean, these rifles aren't actually doing too bad, especially with the help of the 25-pounder there. But just in general, like a Bevelung squad against a rifle squad, never really going to end too well. Because HMG going to get absolutely mowed down by the Panhard MG. And we do see a Panzer 1B here. I brought up a Staghound AA to try and take care of the Panhard, but I don't want the Panzer 1 to sort of take that out with its high HE. So I've got a Ram 2 on the way to deal with that Panzer 1B and just make sure that I have the vehicle support that I need in order to continue pushing. Now on the left side, rifles do get surrendered. Don't have any command over there, so just sort of holding on at the moment. Lennart's still making a lot of ground with his airborne. It's to be expected, honestly. Like I said, against 21st Panzer, it's a pretty hard matchup for Jagsauce for sure. Also, of course, Lennart's like one of the top players in the SD community, but I think it's sort of nicely spaced out on both sides. I'm not entirely sure the skill of like Minotha and Samsung, but I know Silhouette and Yagsource and Salt are decent players, so it's not completely one-sided. Anyway, regardless, I'm still having a very good fight against Silhouette. He's putting up a lot of resistance for my rifles and infantry trying to push through these tree lines. You can see it is very difficult for me at this point, just because I quite simply don't have the support I need to push forwards. Like, I have my artillery, but like 25 pounders with no veterancy is just kind of lackluster. Now we have moved into phase B, so it's more or less like 2-star sexton time. It's one of the best things about the Canadian is the 2-star sextons, but the fact is they don't really change too much, and that can be a major issue, or at least they don't change things quickly. And what I mean by that is, in general, artillery is very slow to like change the outcome of a game. Like yeah, it can pin stuff down from a distance, and yeah, it can kill off like important units like AT guns and enemy artillery and so on. But artillery in general is very slow gameplay, and I think that's what makes the 3rd Canadian relatively weak in phase B, because you are relying so much on those sextons to help make you ground, and then it's just like your infantry is just running forwards very slowly. Now I was quite lucky here. The Panzerschreck comes through the tree line, takes a shot at a ram 2, get the shooter wounded and not a kill there, so that was relatively good. Stormtroopers moving up on this left side. You can see that I did previously use smoke because they got caught out on the road, and that was just to sort of manage the morale there, because I don't have a command again still on this left side, so I've got to make sure they stay alive. So used up their smokes to keep them alive, and now I'm pushing onto the Beverons quite hard. Wasp's going to come in and try and deal with these Beverons that are hitting my rifles, going to be able to pin them down. These rifles unfortunately get pinned almost instantly by the Grenführer. And well, here comes another Ju-188. Fun times. That's going to pin down one of my stormtroopers there, and actually do a lot of damage to my rifles as they're forced to unload from the Kangaroo. You can see I am bringing in these Kangaroos now because they are pretty damn good for supporting infantry at close range. But that Panzerschreck definitely doing work throughout the game so far. Manages to take out the Wasp that I was trying to use to melt some of the high health infantry squads. So yeah, Silhouette really putting up a nice fight, getting that Panzerschreck into decent positions. Of course, the Beverons, with their high health, definitely outmatch my rifles pretty hard. So I'm going to have to rely on this close range fire support from my AA vehicle here, the Ram 2 and the Kangaroo and so on, and of course artillery. So I've got supplies in now for my 25 pounders. Bringing in the Sextons earlier on probably would have been a better idea at this point, because 25 pounders without veterancy are so damn bad. They have barely any accuracy at all, and you can see just like how wide they shoot. Now Silhouette does try and probe my right flank here in the forest. You can see that I did get a Lander shoots and kill there. That's because the stormtroopers used their grenade. I smoked the stormtroopers and allowed them to just throw that. And that's an interesting trick actually that I should probably mention. Any sort of units with... This is why like the flamethrower, the stormtrooper combo is so good as well. Also like just in general in other divisions, command units with smoke alongside things like pioneers. Basically what you can do is you can smoke off an infantry unit, and as long as you can see the enemy unit and you're still in 100 meter range, your stormtroopers or pioneers or whatever can still throw their grenade through the smoke without direct line of sight. And it's a really, really awesome little trick that allows you to engage infantry and defeat infantry without taking any damage whatsoever. So in this case, like I dropped the smoke as I threw the grenade, or like even before I threw the grenade, it wouldn't have mattered. As long as I can still see the Beverons, like, it's job done. Now Ju-88 does come over, gets hit pretty damn hard by that AA. Both as they're not quite able to finish the job, but comes in with a lovely bombing strike, makes things rather difficult for me. KM Führer coming in hot, rifles do get surrendered. Not having a fantastic time here against Silhouette's infantry. Now he's also got ROA on the case, and that's going to be pretty difficult for me to deal with, because at close range the ROA have 14 HE. So you can imagine now that my stormtroopers are also outclassed, and that's not great. Flamethrowers here managed to sort of force back an infantry squad briefly, but the Vickers HMG, they're getting wrecked. Ram 2 is going to try and come and deal with the Panzerjäger. Rifles still engaging these Bavarians here. That's a nice, interesting battle, and we are eventually going to win that. Stormtroopers now engaging ROA at close range, but of course, pretty hard matchup. Fortunately, still had a grenade left on the Stormtrooper squad, so I'm going to win that time around. On this side, Rifle Leader just killing off the Landerschützen. And, well, Ram 2's eventually going to go down to that Panzerschreck. Good old Panzerschreck. Really was a problem for me throughout this game. Rather frustrating problem. Shouldn't have lost either of my Rams, really, throughout this game so far. Bit of a mistake on the right side here, losing it to the Pak 38 that was there originally. And, of course, letting it be shot twice by Panzerschrecks now is pretty dodgy. Making sure that you sort of manage your range in these forests is... I mean, it's a good idea, but... I mean, nobody said it was easy, and there I'm just getting myself caught out a little bit. Tripolston's going to be opening up onto the Panzerjäger here. That's the 2-star Tripolston. I really don't want to lose that if I don't have to. So Stormtroopers here busy running over. They do have their grenade available, and I might be able to use that against the Panzerjäger if possible. Staghound's going to open up onto the Panzerjägers. We're going to get the grenade off onto the Panzerjäger as well. That's going to force them to fall back, and that's actually going to cause a surrender since he's out of range of the Grenführer here. So just going to try and intercept that, and there we go, job done. Stormtroopers are going to be engaging these Panzerschreck there, and they're also engaged by the ROA, so they get pinned down very quickly and actually get taken out because I had them on a movement order rather than an attack move order. That was my bad, and just trying to get them back into a decent position there ends up getting them killed. So that was unfortunate, but still, being helped now by Samsung's bringing over some Wasps here, the field engineers with Wasps. Obviously doesn't really have much use for them in the open, especially when he's pushed so far up. So going to be coming to help me out briefly. Panzerschreck finally goes down, but that Panzerschreck squad really doing a fantastic job throughout this game. Silhouette microing them very nicely to get them into those really annoying positions that managed to snipe that Ram. Especially considering, like, that Panzerschreck was originally here, like on this left side area. I did not expect them to be able to like cross in the open here without getting spotted at some point throughout the game, which is why I never expected my Ram to die. My Ju-188 is flying about above us. Again, still an issue. These are 125-point bombers. That's Salt's bomber there. Going to be bringing in a Spitfire just to try and shoot that down if I can. There is, however, some solid anti-air that's going to prevent me from finding that kill. Right, rifles here, now supported by the field engineers. It looks like the Luftwaffe Jäger, they're going to get their Faustpatron off onto Samsung's Wasp, though. I do eventually lose my Stormtroopers on this right side. Of course, I'm under massive pressure from their infantry. The Festung, just really good. For infantry availability and power. But fortunately here, Stormtroopers actually managing to just pick up quickly a low morale squad. And Staghound AA is now going to engage the Flak 39. Ju-188 coming in with another bombing strike. Going to end up pinning both of my rifles here. Really awkward. Now finally, moving into Phase C, I'm actually going to pick up these Sextons. Probably could have picked them up a bit sooner, but in comes a lot of Sextons from Samsung as well. We got the Kangaroo arriving, we've got the Bedford truck there as well. And yeah, these basically, again, same deal as before. Just going to try and help me deal with their overwhelming infantry. So instead of like for example, Silhouette here, he's using his Festung's infantry availability and health and strength in order to push through my infantry at close range. But if I can play it around these vehicles, then it definitely gives me an advantage, and that's why I'm keeping these Staghound AAs so close to these rifles, not only to kill the Ju-188s, but also to provide direct fire support onto the infantry, because I haven't really sort of bumped into much AT here other than the Panzerschreck that basically did a lot of damage previously. So Yeah, I think in general, like in order to win this matchup, you have to rely quite heavily on your artillery, but also your fire support. The main issue comes when your opponent starts to utilize their like AP value tanks. So for example, this Panzer IV really starts to become an issue because you can see I've sort of found this combination of like artillery, infantry, and support vehicles. But now with the introduction of a Panzer IV, that has nothing to contest it other than what would have been my Ram. But I guess a Ram probably would have won against a Panzer IV, but still, not great. What was great, however, was that Ju-188 flew over all of my AA here. CMP Tripolston, 3 Staghound AAs. That was definitely job done. Only managed to kill one of my commands and traded for it, so that was a good kill for me. Kangaroo there going to pick up a Panhard MG kill, and well, artillery still firing away. Obviously a lot of that is Samsungs here.
Yes, sir.
I'm being helped out, but it wasn't like I was losing or anything. I think just I'm the only person on the map who's not really making any ground, but that's probably because this matchup is kind of dire. Staghound does manage to pick off some infantry before they unload, which is nice. And Kangaroos again going to be engaging these Panhards. Like 50 cals, they really do the job. Rifles bumping into Aufkläder. With a little bit of artillery support, those Aufkläder could probably win that engagement, but not this time around, or at least not yet. More rifles arriving. Straight into the face of the Panzer IV. Good stuff. Not my finest hour. And we can see my Staghound here is in trouble due to the Panzer IV. And Kangaroo's just pushing hard. I can take out these half tracks and the Panhard with the 50 cals. I don't mind that. So we can push very, very hard here. These rifles sort of fighting to the last man. That's fine. The Verdungs and Landerschützen just a little bit too much. Wasn't going to get away from that anyway. Did bring in my own Mosquito here. That's going to be bombs away. It's the 610 HE power bomb Mosquito. The other great thing about Mosquitoes in this matchup actually is that they can shoot down those Ju-188s as interceptors quite easily. So that was something I was going to look to do later in the game. And it's actually something that I hadn't talked about yet with the 3rd Canadian. Their Mosquito spam is actually something that I reckon could be relatively strong against both the 2nd Panzer and the Festung. Just because it's very, very like overwhelming and can basically take control of the skies very easily. If you have like a bunch of Mosquitoes, especially in like the later phases, it can take over a game and definitely help you deal with a lot of things those 2 divisions in particular have to throw at you. So anyway, Luftwaffe Jäger here, they're still being pinned by my artillery. Fortunately I'm not pinning my rifles anymore, so as soon as my rifles recover, we should surrender those Luftwaffe Jäger. On the main road, M3 guns are going to be engaging the B2. Going to be bouncing off that a couple of times. Speedthroop going to get absolutely wrecked. Rifle's still in a relatively good position here. KM-Fuhrer are going to come and try and deal with that though. And I've now got a Firefly in the forest to try and deal with the Panzer IV. So, fire away boy. And well, we trade track wheel damage, which is quite funny actually. But fortunately, the Firefly does manage to pin the Panzer IV with its first shot because it hit. So that's a 16 AP versus 8 armor, which is why the first shot just pinned it straight away, and the second shot's going to do the job. Now I do have this Bedford supply here that could easily fix that up, so I wasn't particularly worried about being track wheel destroyed there, unless I started to get artied, of course, in which case it would be very difficult to actually fix that up. But if I just smoke it, put my supply in there, we should be fine. So that's what you can see me doing. Rifles are now engaging multiple units. We've got silhouettes, Panzergrens and Landerschützen here engaging us. Kangaroos have done a fantastic job of breaking through on this left side, supporting my infantry as it makes ground. Got the AA now coming up as well. That's my Staghound AA with the Panzer IV gone. I can actually be relatively aggressive with the Staghound AA as long as there's no Panzerschrecks nearby. So that's what I was thinking of doing. Of course, Sextons are still firing away as well. And I've got my new Bedford supply coming in. So, idea was that this Bedford supply would come in and accompany the Sexton that was currently being counter-batteried. Meanwhile, this Bedford supply found its way to the Firefly to fix it up and allow it to continue to support my infantry as I move forwards.
We can't take it anymore.
So artillery coming in here, you can see that I'm managing to pin them down and continue to push up. Like with the 2-star sextons, it's quite easy to sort of like group them on different keys and then just fire at like every separate like infantry engagement that you have. So I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again just for reference really, and anyone who hasn't picked up on it yet, but basically you can click on a unit and click control and 1, and then if you just click the number 1, you will select that unit or any units that were selected when you press control and 1 in the first place. So basically control group commands for most strategy games. But it's very useful on artillery because, for example, I could set this sexton to 1, this 25 pounder to 2, this 25 pounder to 3, and then this sexton to 4, or however, whichever order you want to do it. I normally go from like left to right, so I'll do like the furthest left on the furthest left artillery on 1, and the furthest right on 4, for example. And we got multiple Ju-88s coming here, and well, Mosquito was coming in to do its own bombing strike, so I'm going to get on the back of this Ju-188 train pretty nicely with the Spitfire Mark 9s. And I also had the Mosquito shoot down 1, but with the assistance of the AA, that's a lot of Ju-188 kills. And, well, didn't really work out very well. Now, my Firefly does get forced back, and you can see that the Panzerjäger does come in here to try and do the job, but with, you know, 3 AA pieces firing at it, it's going to end up surrendering. And, well, there's 5 minutes left on the clock, and that's pretty much victory. Thanks to mainly my teammates pushing so much ground, but we did make ground in the end through the forest. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about the artillery, control grouping is very useful because you can then just like select one artillery and fire at each infantry you're fighting against individually and pin down multiple all at once, which definitely gives you a huge advantage in those sort of fights where maybe you don't have grenade infantry like pioneers or something. So yeah, artillery can be extremely useful for that kind of thing if you micro it properly. Anyway, 27 minutes and 46 seconds it took for my team to win the day, but I just thought, you know, interesting replay, lots to talk about. Not a division that I play very often, so yeah, hopefully you guys found something useful from this video, some nice tips in there, hopefully. 1,480 kills to 1,045 losses in the end. In terms of kills, you can see it was relatively spread out, honestly. A lot of them came at the end, of course, due to the Ju-188s. Losing my 2 Rams was completely unnecessary. Like, losing one to the Panzerschreck was just really frustrating when I was actually playing. And losing the one to the AT gun, that was just my bad, pushing forwards unsupported without recon. So yeah, recon definitely could have been something that I would have improved on in this game. Having recon in certain positions in those forests is actually really good, especially for dealing with things like those IG-18s, giving targets to my 25 pounders and so on. So yeah, it's definitely something I could have improved on, but I just was spamming in the infantry, and honestly, infantry at that range can generally spot what it needs to in order to get the job done, which is why I don't focus so much on recon in those close range engagements. Anyway, that's going to be all for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.